For the trapper, since he uses traps, I could see a legendary skin being the collector. It's a pretty underrated movie about a man named Arkin who sneaks into the wrong house of a serial killer who collects people. How he's kind of made a name for himself is that he has these infamous traps in the movies. Trapper sets down traps and so does the collector, and he's also set down the bear trap in the movie. So I could see a skin like that suiting Trapper well. The collector is not as tall as Trapper, so I may just give him a plus during chase so it wouldn't poke out his head too much. But since I think the collector is not really considered that much to be in DBD, I think he would work better as a skin for Trapper. For Billy, I think Dr. Salvador from Resident Evil 4 would be perfect. We already have Resident Evil characters in the game as well as licensed skins. Plus we have Leon's RE4 skin, so to have Leon's RE4 skin and then to have Dr. Salvador as a killer chasing him, it will be kind of perfect. I think if they were planning to do a RE chapter 3 for Dead by Daylight, I don't think it will be a RE chapter with Lord Sadler as a killer. I think they will want to do the modern Resident Evil, which would be Ethan as the survivor and maybe Jack Baker from RE7 or Lady D from RE8. It'll be a fitting addition since we already have all this RE content, so I figure why not. I also think it would be cool for licensed skins to also have unique Moris, so they do a unique Mori for each skin. I say this because it will open more possibilities for licensed skins, but you will start to realize what I mean once I continue down the list. For Wraith, I think Reptile from Mortal Kombat could be a pretty unique skin. Reptile has the ability to go invisible, just like the Wraith, so I think that would be kind of perfect. Of course, if Reptile is actually a killer in the game rather than a skin, I could see him doing way more than just him being in cloak. But as a skin, I think it will be creative for Wraith. So I think he would just yell out a yell or type of noise to signal to the survivors that he's going in cloak mode or about to leave it. I know that would be a unique animation rather than Wraith's usual bell animation, but this is what I'm talking about with licensed skins and just skins in general having that unique factor of having their own animations. I think they will be more worth the price. So seeing something like that vary in skins, like I said, opens more doors for possibilities. I could even see Reptile's pickup animation with him using his tongue to pick up the survivor, then put them on his shoulder. Maybe even wrapping his tongue around a pallet to break it. Cool animations like that. Like, I think if we don't ever get a Mortal Kombat chapter in the game, actually, I think the least they could do is a collab where they just give us plenty of skins for various characters that look like, you know, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and all these other Mortal Kombat characters. I think that would be really cool to see. Now, for Nurse is a pretty unexpected one, and I chose the Thin Man from Little Nightmares. The Thin Man is the main antagonist in Little Nightmares 2, who continues to stalk and hunt down the main protagonist, that being Mono, accompanied by Six. I genuinely just find this guy pretty unsettling to look at. His posture alone just looks like a man who's hung himself. In the game, he has his teleportation abilities where he could like teleport through screens or just in general, as well as time manipulation and telekinesis. If it's anyone fitting as a killer who I could see teleporting, it would be him. I mean, I could see him coming as a killer by himself possibly, with Mono and Six just being skins, because of course they're his size, unless they do something like the Yoshi treatment. If Little Nightmares did ever come as a chapter though, I would really just want the mysterious lady as the killer though. For the Hag, I could see Blair Witch being her licensed skin. Now they don't have to make the Blair Witch look exactly like how she did in the remake, because I know in the remake they actually revealed her compared to the original where they didn't reveal anything, or at least how she looked like. And that's why I kind of feel what made it scarier is that we had to use our own imagination to decipher how she actually looked like. However, I do like the idea of actually seeing her because it brings the character more to life. I think the devs should just go crazy on the design, make her look like how they want her to look like. But what I think would be an interesting touch is that when she actually marks the ground, like how the Hag does the phantasm traps, she actually marks the Blair Witch symbol into the ground, instead of it just being the Hag's normal ritualistic symbol. It also fits pretty well considering the Hag is supposed to be like a witch, so you got a witch on top of a witch, which will be the Blair Witch. So I think she would fit in pretty well as a Hag skin. Especially since I think a Blair Witch Project chapter is kinda obscure and not really being talked about right now. So I could see her better off being the skin. For Doctor, I think Leland Coyle, I think that's how you pronounce it, from Outlast Trials would be a pretty interesting skin. I've always said that Outlast should have been in DVD a long time ago just because of its concept. You simply just run and hide in a game, and in Dead by Daylight you kind of do the same thing with minor self-defense considering perks you want to throw in, or items like flashlights and fireworks, like how you could stun the killers, and pallets you could stun the killers with. Because of that, I thought Outlast should have just been in DVD by now, but it is what it is. But Leland Coyle is one of the antagonists in the Outlast Trials. He's like this corrupt police officer who likes electrocuting and sexually assaulting people with his shock baton. That shock baton will obviously be his weapon, similar to how Doctor has a similar baton like that. I just feel like his electrocution power would be amplified to the max, because in Outlast it does look deadly, but it doesn't look as deadly as the Doctor. But if Outlast been in the game already, I just thought he would have been the pretty fitting skin for the Doctor, considering they both share similar abilities torture wise. For Huntress, this is a bit of a classic and also kind of memey and random. Her skin will be one of the axe creature zombies from House of the Dead. The House of the Dead is a horror themed like gun shooter game dated all the way back in the late 90s. I think if Behavior just wanted to add silly but horror like classic cosmetics in the game, House of the Dead would fit. I only say that because these were the type of games that you would never take seriously. You literally just play just for gameplay. Objective was simple, you just shoot the zombies and that's it. Try to save some people here and there, and then try to defeat the bosses. So I think adding one of the zombie variants, specifically the ones that throw axes at you, which is the axe creatures, would be pretty funny to add in DVD. Maybe as a small Halloween cosmetic that I could see possibly being limited, but if it was ever available, I'll cop it. House of the Dead will always just be one of those games that I could just play and just never get bored of. For Clown, it's a pretty unexpected one, and that would be Sissy from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the game. Sissy in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game could use her drug powders to like disorient the survivors, or victims I should say, to the point where it makes their screen get all hazy and they even start running funny. And when the clown throws his bottles, the same thing happens. This is that the survivors have more control of where they're going. They just get slowed down. So why not add Sissy to Dead by Daylight? I find her to be a popular character in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, so I think it would be pretty cool if Bubba wasn't the only family member in Dead by Daylight and he had Sissy to have his back. I could see Sissy's bottles looking more like Molotovs with the drugs inside, so when she throws it on the ground it would just illuminate green mist, and then the survivors run through it, their screen gets all hazy and they start slowing down, of course, just like the clown's ability, because of course the skin doesn't change their ability. The least it could do is change the animation and of course the looks. But for the haste powder, I guess they could just leave it yellow, considering Sissy doesn't have nothing like that in the game, so that would be more of an addition to what she had in the game. Guess you could say the entity gave it to her as a gift or something like that, I don't know. I guess the only weird part is that you would hear Sissy's humming for it to then just be the clown's theme song and she's the one chasing you. She just wouldn't have that type of theme song at all, and it would be kind of funny to see. But I guess for Hunk, he wouldn't have a rock and roll type theme song like how he does for Legion, or any other legendary skin for that matter, where the skin just doesn't match the theme song being played. But it is what it is. For Spirit, I can see her having the legendary skin Fukuchi Saki Ona, hope I pronounced that right. She's this Japanese urban legend about a woman who has these scars on her mouth, but she's also very attractive. She would cover her mouth with like a scarf or type of face mask, and she would ask her victims if she's beautiful. If the victims reply no, she will end up killing them. But if they reply yes, she will remove her mask and then reveal her scar, repeating the question. If the victim says no, then she will wind up killing them. But if they say yes, then she will wind up giving them her scar that she got, resembling her own disfigurement. It's an interesting urban legend that I heard way back in the day, and funny enough, some people actually speculated her being the killer when the Spirit was getting seized, so I think it will be a fun nod to that if they would have added her as a skin for Spirit, because she's technically an Onryo, so she could go around the map with her scissors and then start cutting survivors left and right. Plus, I think the devs should just consider adding urban legends to the game, so I could see her being a cool and unexpected choice for a skin, especially for Spirit. For Legion, I could see the monkeys from Dark Deception being one of their legendary skins. With the noises of the monkeys and everything, I think that would be kind of terrifying, hearing the monkey sounds sprinting behind you. And there's a horde of them too, which makes it all the more perfect. But they do all wear the same outfit, so I could just see this being a simple cosmetic for Frank. But that wouldn't matter though, because it wouldn't be like Frank cosplaying as one of the monkeys from Dark Deception. It will feel like you literally are one of the monkeys from Dark Deception. I don't want it to be one of those Hunk cases where it just feels like Frank is cosplaying as Hunk and we just know that's not Hunk. These monkeys just simply chase you down too, kind of like the Legion, so it fits, because not really much else to them, they just simply pursue you. They're the first enemies you run into in the game when you have to collect the shards. The Legion already have the bunny cosmetic, so I wouldn't put it past if they were to add a monkey cosmetic, that being the monkey from Dark Deception. It would be random, but with the sounds and appearance and everything, I think it would be kind of worth it. I would definitely want some psychotic crazed monkey chasing me. For Plague, I always wanted like a classic mummy, because she always gave me this pharaoh type vibe in the first place. So I think them just adding like a classic mummy cosmetic for her, maybe like as a Halloween thing, would be kind of dope. You see how Dwight has that like meme toilet paper cosmetic where he kind of looks like a mummy but he's just wrapped in toilet paper, something like that, but just make the Plague of course look like an undead mummy. Gender doesn't matter, of course. I guess they can make it a male just to switch it up, since Plague is originally a female, and with the unique sound of the mummy puking, it would sound more like a zombie puking, bringing the skin more to life. Something simple but effective just like that would do it for me. Also, speaking of classic, for Oni I could see a vampire skin. We don't have a vampire in the game yet, and I do see a vampire killer coming, but if we unexpectedly don't have any vampire chapter coming anytime soon, I think the least they could do is add a vampire skin for the Oni. I can see there being some type of unique animation for absorbing blood, so when a vampire absorbs the blood, it drinks the blood afterwards, and you can hear the sound of the vampire slurping on the blood. I think details like that will add more immersion to the skin, because it's not just a skin, you know, it doesn't just look like a vampire but sound like Oni, like it actually is its own thing. I can see the weapon being like a Kilichi, I hope I pronounced this right. This was so called the Sword of Vlad the Impaler, so I think they could get some inspiration from that with the weapon, but I wouldn't know what the two-handed weapon will be, because I think a club would be kind of weird for like a vampire killer. So maybe like the two-handed weapon could be like a Syntha or something like that. Just something with a huge spike at the end, so when a vampire goes slamming the weapon down to the ground, like how the Oni slams his Kanabu to the ground, or whatever it's called, it looks like it's impaling the survivor. Just as long as it looks very deadly, I suppose. For Deathslinger, I could see him having the smoker skin from Left 4 Dead. We only have Bill as our survivor, so having some sort of Left 4 Dead content for the killer would be kind of cool, and Bill would get some flashbacks of him being with his crew. I still never understood why we didn't get a killer for Left 4 Dead, but it is what it is. Anyway, since Deathslinger shoots you and reels you in, I figured the perfect skin would be the smoker from Left 4 Dead, because the smoker does the same thing, just with his tongue. Of course, the animations would have to be super unique, because Deathslinger actually aims down his reticle and then shoots you. So for the smoker, I guess it could be something where the smoker is opening his mouth and you hear like a sound cue, and then you have to dodge the tongue, and it will work just like Deathslinger. To be honest, if they really did consider adding like a smoker skin for Deathslinger, I think that would sell very well for Deathslinger, because that would just be such a rare cosmetic for him. Like, you wouldn't expect him to be some creature or zombie using his tongue to shoot at you and then reel you in like that, since you always see Deathslinger with a gun. So I think this legendary skin would be a game changer in itself, and hell, that might get a lot of people playing Deathslinger, because Deathslinger is already a fun killer. So for him to have this type of skin, I think people would definitely play him a lot more. For Blight, I could see a simple werewolf as a legendary skin for him. I always wanted to have some simple werewolves just chasing you in the game, where as soon as they hook you, they just howl in the sky like howl. I think hearing that while you're in game would be kind of dope, especially from Soraka's point of view while we're on the gen. We recently got a cat cosmetic for Blight, so I wouldn't put it past it for him getting a werewolf type cosmetic, like a simple werewolf with just his nails, not actually it holding a weapon or anything like that. I think would be neat, because it's like, I know the devs don't want to add classic killers like that in the game because they like to be more creative with their creations. I feel the least they could do is add like the simple classic killers as skins, so adding something like a werewolf of Blight would be decent, at least. Because as much as I would just love a chapter where the killer is a werewolf with his own abilities and everything, the Blight has this supernatural speed of something similar to a werewolf, and I feel like his power is so simple for a classic simple kill like that. I can see the skin selling pretty well, considering most people did want a werewolf in the game a long time ago and still do want a werewolf in the game now. It's funny because most people speculated that Blight was going to be a werewolf, but you wind up getting this blighted abomination, which is still cool of course, but I would just love if a werewolf got some love. For twins, I kind of had no idea for his skin, but I could see something like an impregnated creature of some kind, or a creature that's a host with its womb being its companion. It sucks that Victor doesn't get any love dealing with cosmetics, but if they ever changed their minds and went that route, I think turning Victor into this little gremlin creature, with Charlotte being like the mother that's a host, would be kind of dope. Hell, if they wanted to get really creative, maybe Charlotte could just be this spider, and Victor is like a baby spider that comes out her womb. So once you unleash Victor, it's just this little spider chasing you, about to pounce on your back and start biting on your flesh. If that was legit a cosmetic in the game, I could see way more people playing twins than just one person. Like, imagine the devs actually deciding to incorporate Victor in a cosmetic, and they winded up giving us this spider skin for the twins. That would hands down be one of the coolest fucking cosmetics in the game. I will main the twins for that matter. Don't get me wrong, I find nothing wrong with twins. Like, I will play them here and there really on a rare day, but that would definitely change my mind. Of course, it'll be 10 times more better to just have the spider as the actual killer in the game, but if for some reason they never got to that point, the least they could do is add something unique like that. But I doubt they will, because you know, like, only one person plays twins, and that one person is really good with twins. For Trickster, I think it would be cool if they were to do a DC crossover by adding Victor Zsasz as a legendary cosmetic for him. Victor Zsasz is this crazed serial killer in Gotham who tally marks his victims' body count on himself. The thing I find perfect about this legendary crossover set is that this genuinely seems like an ability that Victor Zsasz will have, and I think it will just be him throwing a fury of knives at a fast speed. To top it off, Trickster's theme song is pretty disturbing and unsettling to hear, so hearing that theme song as Victor Zsasz is chasing you, laughing, giggling just like the Trickster, I think it will be kind of perfect. I would say the Joker would be perfect too, but I mentioned Joker in the previous video like this, but Joker would be a cool consideration too, but just change the knives into Joker cards. For artists, I think Ink Bendy will be kind of perfect. I'm not really familiar with Bendy and the Ink Machine, but some people told me if they were to pick a skin for artists, it would be the Ink Demon, who's the main antagonist of the Bendy franchise and can manipulate ink as its ability. So of course for this skin it wouldn't be crows, but it will instead be something as deadly as crows, so maybe like a fury of glass shards thirsting towards the survivor about to hit them, but when it collides on the survivor on impact, it turns to something else, like some sort of ink energy that's like a debuff to survivors, to the point where they of course have to get rid of it just like crows. I guess the devs could get creative like that on that standpoint, considering the ink demon could manipulate ink, because in that case you could make ink look like anything deadly, so it could really be anything besides glass shards or whatever that disorients survivors or keeps them distracted like crows. But the fact that Ink Bendy is literally ink and the artist is part ink, it makes Bendy a fitting skin. For Dredge, I would personally love if the Resident Evil 8 fetus baby was a skin for the Dredge. Of course with minor changes since the fetus is huge, but seeing that fetus chase you surrounded by darkness, oh my god, that would be terrifying. Especially since it will make the noises like from the game. It will just burst out of the locker and start chasing you, making the baby noises. I think that would be Dredge's scariest skin yet, because being chased by that thing is already disturbing in the game. So if they was to put that fetus in Dead by Daylight, it would definitely keep me on edge. And it would just be a cool skin in general, considering the only thing we have remotely close to a fetus that's a killer is Victor. So seeing something else that's like this abomination of a fetus chasing you in the darkness, insta purchase. For Knight, I could see Apollyon from For Honor coming in as a legendary skin. Apollyon is the medieval warlord in For Honor. She's like the big bad antagonist of that game that you have to defeat at the end. I could just see her being perfect for a Knight skin, even making her guards look like some of the minions in For Honor. I could see her dialogue being pretty interesting as well, since she always likes to talk about sheep in the metaphorical standpoint. Like, she despises cowardly warriors that just wait for their demise. She likes to recruit ones that fight with will and will actually try to survive instead of just waiting to be killed. So when she sees survivors running away, I already know she will have voice lines dealing with sheep and how survivors are cowards running away and not putting up a genuine fight, even though it's not much they could do considering they could only just run away. I actually think now would have been a perfect time if they were to do another crossover event with For Honor, because I know Dead by Daylight did a crossover event with For Honor where a trapper was in the game and you had to defeat him. So if another event was in the works, or even that returning event for Honor, I think it would be cool adding Knight to For Honor and adding his Mori as an execution for the warriors to do in that game. Not adding Knight as an actual playable character, but as a skin for Warmonger, who is Apollyon, or should I say the followers of Apollyon, but it's Apollyon, let's be real. Or at least that's what the devs are trying to make it. Other than that, I think she will be a really perfect fit for Knight. For Skull Merchant, I could just see a skin where she's half human, half AI, who could deploy drones from out her forearm. Every time I looked at Skull Merchant's base outfit, it always just looked like she's half human, half AI, because you could see her face being slightly exposed, but it's also concealed because the other side of her face has this gas mask, bedazzle type look. But it sucks that that's all cosmetic because she's not actually AI. So a skin where she's actually AI like the Singularity, I think would be kind of perfect, because it will actually make her feel like she's AI instead of just posing like she's AI. Like, even when she walks, she sounds like she's a robot, but she's actually not. So giving her at least a skin like that will be neat. I don't have too much to say about Skull Merchant. It was kind of hard picking a skin for her, but if you have any better recommendations, just let me know down below. Last but not least, for Singularity, I think he should have some eye abomination type of skin. He's just some entity that has eyeballs everywhere. Like, if you ever played War of the Monsters on the PS2, there's this monster called Kineticlops, and it has this eye of a head and the body's electricity. Like, a concept inspired by that for Singularity I think would be so dope, because when the Singularity shoots its biopod, so instead of it actually being biopods, it'll be these eyeballs, and once Singularity is looking through that eyeball, or biopod I should say, the eyeball will start to open. So when it's off, the eyeball is closed, and when it's on, the eyeball is open, tracking the survivor. It'll look real creepy just seeing the eyeball constantly gaze at you as it's trying to just mark you. But when it does slipstream you, it'll connect this other extra eyeball onto your back and you would just see the eyeball blinking on your back. Design wise, I could see that looking really fucking cool. Singularity is already a fun killer himself, but playing with that skin, that would just be amazing. I just want more skins that actually make the killer feel different, at least a little bit, because of course the killer's gonna feel like the killer already is, but if everything is redesigned, it would just make it look like a mod, so it would look like a completely different killer you're not only playing as but going against. So I would definitely love if the devs got more innovative with the skins. But anyways, what legendary skin would you add to original killer if you have one in mind? Let me know down below. Love y'all, take care, I'm gonna see y'all in the next one, and peace.